Yo, I'm pretty sure Dark Souls fans are lunatics. They seem so trustworthy since I was new to this. I thought maybe it was a great game I missed. Mate, you're gonna have a great time, they promise. It's the first time I believe a bold-faced lie. Sobbing to my pillow, hot tears, and I scream why. But honestly, how dense am I when the special edition's called Prepare to Die?
Welcome, I'm Sean.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is Try Jumping, a Dark Souls chat about the experience of playing Dark Souls 1 from two very different perspectives. So, before we get going with the discussion, I wanted to give a general background that each of us have with the series. So, Ryan, what's your background with the Souls games?
So my background with the Souls games is that I started with Dark Souls 2, actually. I started late in the series. So now I'm returning to Dark Souls after you pawned one off to me.
Yeah, one of my many copies. And that was the vanilla version of Dark Souls 2?
Yeah.
Okay, the original one.
No, I did do some DLC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's it. And so for... What did you know about Dark Souls 1 then coming in? Because I'm sure over the years I've probably said of things, there's just people talk about it occasionally, so...
Yeah. Well, I knew that upgrading weapons was a lot different and more convoluted, which I can now attest to. A nightmare. Yeah. And I knew that the bonfire structures were different, like the level structures were different, that they were not as gracious with the bonfires, I would say.
Yeah.
So... I didn't really know what that looked like getting into it, though,
yeah.
So that's a whole nother topic.
And for this playthrough, what are you playing it on?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a min-maxer when it comes to video games, so when I started Dark Souls, as you know, I reached out to you and said, hey, what's the best build? Because I don't want to waste my time here. And you gave me a couple options. You said you could play, a quality build and do 40 strength, 40 dex. You also suggested Pyromancer. And I did a little bit of research myself, and I'm not saying this is the best build, but I ended up just going with Pyromancer on a dex build, so that casting times would be higher.
Yeah, definitely.
Or shorter.
Yeah, and actually, I rolled Pyromancer for mine as well, and level-wise, it starts at level 1, so you kind of get that advantage of having...
Yeah, it's nice.
It's cheaper to upgrade originally, and... I might be returning to it, but I didn't care. I wanted to have some fun, and I love throwing pyromancy. But
are you using the Zweihander though?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
and the pyromancy actually fell off the edge. But before I get into that, my background is that so Ryan's coming in new to Dark Souls, and I'm returning to Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls 1 right before Dark Souls 2 came out. Is when I got through it. I had a play before that where I stopped on Ornstein and Smough. Actually, I gave up because I thought they were impossible. Yeah, and but I beat it right before Dark Souls 2 came out. But then because of the release schedule of From's games after that, they released something almost yearly. So I just got swept up in it, and that makes sense. I didn't get to truly return to Dark Souls 1 until now, sort of with the added motivation of playing alongside you and having the entirety of the series to now like re-contextualize this game. So yeah, we'll start to jump into it now. And so this is part 1. We've both played up through Anor Londo past Ornstein and Smough, so that's where we're going to be keeping the discussion at for now. And
I feel like that's a major milestone.
yeah, exactly. And so as a disclaimer on that end, this isn't the opinions we have now could change going into the second half.
Oh, totally.
Some of the overall things, especially for Ryan, because you just don't necessarily have the whole context, and there's a whole half of game.
Yeah.
That's still out there. So let's jump into it. So,
all right.
Let's see. So we're just gonna. I think the structures of the shows, we just kind of want to be experiential, talk stories, because I think Dark Souls at its core is a very experiential game. Mm-hmm. When you play a Souls game for the first time, it's kind of this big experience, and then I think each time you play, even after that, even when you know the series, playing one of the Dark Souls 1, 2, 3 for the first time still is like its own thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't know what to expect. It's all
Yeah.
that knowledge about the game is a huge part of how you experience it.
It is.
So,
I mean, I remember coming to Dark Souls 2 for the first time. I think you introduced me to it, actually. You were playing it one time when I came over, and you very kindly gave me the controller, which I can't imagine doing now, having played the game, just giving your reins over to a complete noob. I'm pretty sure you ran and grabbed your bloodstain before you did, though.
Yeah.
And I remember that experience and, like, coming to terms with the endurance bar and how it limits what you can do and realizing, I can't just button mash these enemies.
Yeah.
I have to plan out what I do.
Yeah, it's such a huge adjustment.
And then just coming to Dark Souls 1 as well. I mean, it's a completely different experience. So I totally agree.
Yeah.
That it is all about the experience, and it changes even between games,
Yeah.
even when you've played them before.
And interesting to come through too, because I guess in some context, the ones I played most recently was Bloodborne, which would be the fastest paced
Yeah.
of the series for sure. And Dark Souls 2 is arguably the slowest, at least at the beginning. Your character, the number of times you can roll, the number of hits, times you can swing,
Yeah.
are like so limited at the start. So
I didn't
Dark
know
Souls
that.
felt slow to me, but depending on how recently you played Dark Souls 2 and if you started, it may have actually felt a little bit quicker.
Yeah, interesting.
So-
I didn't know they structured it that way.
Yeah, so I guess the start thing will just start at the beginning of the game, which is just hit the opening cutscene. It sets up the mythology of the world. What did you think of the opening cutscene?
I mean, it was epic.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They have all this great imagery, and they use ancient words and arc trees and everlasting dragons. So
Yeah.
it just sounds really cool.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, like Dark Souls is notorious for, it doesn't give you much to go on except
Yeah.
the general framework of what the world's like.
yeah.
But
I think-
it's really cool. Like, they had interesting ideas. The idea that fire creates disparity because of light and dark. I feel
Yeah.
like that's a really interesting theme.
yeah,
And although they don't do it there, you could plumb that, quite a bit philosophically.
yeah, exactly. I knew it would appeal to you, and it's always appealed to me because we're both like Lord of the Rings nerds and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just that like kind of like
That deep.
it's
lore.
a dark fantasy game, but the opening's like it's very. It's not high fantasy exactly, but it's very
It's
fantastical.
so tantalizing
Yeah,
too.
it's got this mythology, and yeah, I always just enjoy watching that, and
Yeah.
it's interesting coming from that versus, like if you're starting with Dark Souls 2, it's such a different opening because the opening of Dark Souls 2 is so like personal, but like I feel like it doesn't.
I mean, they're literally talking to you.
I feel like that introduction doesn't ring out through the game the same way. Like obviously, the Dark Souls 1 is really setting up the world, and you get constantly through the game be like, oh, it's that guy now, or it's it's her. It's like all this stuff.
Yeah, the ones I saw.
Yeah, we'll come back. But like Dark Souls 2 is just a different approach, and I think it's hard. You couldn't do that for Dark Souls 2 the same way because obviously Dark Souls 1 is setting up the world, but
Right.
I just love that cutscene. So let's see. We covered this a little bit, but as I said before, I went with the Pyromancer, Master Key. As you said, quickly, I've mostly been playing with the Zweihander just to give some context of sort of what build I've been doing. I went into a quality build, and Pyromancy sort of fell to the wayside for me. You took Master Key as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I did basically the same build in terms of class and starting items, so that kind of boring in terms of diversity, but I did Pyromancer with Master Key, and I'm using the Uchigatana.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am not good at decks. I tried it for Dark Souls 3, and I actually use the Uchi, but...
I love the katanas. I use them in Dark Souls 2, and yeah, I love them in Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, I'll get into it, but man, it's just, like, the Uchi's a pretty, like, well-loved weapon, and I know, like, the Zweihander is probably, like, overused, but it's so good.
Yeah.
I
mean, I killed for the Uchi. I literally killed the undead male merchant to get
It's true,
it.
I just took it off some corpse. Then moving into the Undead Asylum. I mean, especially if you're contrasting with Dark Souls 2.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, how do you compare those two tutorials? I think I have opinions, but what do you think?
Yeah. What stage are we talking about in the Undead Asylum? Because I have a particular...
the first
point
time
in
you're at the
time.
Undead Asylum, and then
Right.
just like how you think of it, like as a tutorial for a game, how it's introducing you to Dark Souls, like
So I thought it was really interesting to have that night guy. What do they call him?
Oscar,
yeah. To drop that body into the cell. It was interesting from a Dark Souls perspective because suddenly I didn't feel alone starting off the game, which was strange to me. It was like, there's someone here. Yeah. And that never happened. Usually if they're above you like that, they're dropping down to kill you. Yeah. They're not giving you a key out of your cell. So that was really interesting to me. And I know you've spoken briefly to me about sort of the developers' kind of change of direction with all of that, with him being almost someone you play along with and against throughout the game, and then just taking him completely out of the picture and having him just be dead in the asylum. Yeah. So you kind of feel that tension almost, that waffling that the developers had in the beginning, if that's not your first introduction, because I've been introduced to Dark Souls before, and I know that that's not typical of Dark Souls. Yeah. So I felt that.
Yeah, to have someone actually being nice to you.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on?
I mean, Dark Souls 2 starts with those like the old firekeepers just laughing at you.
Yeah. It's quite a contrast.
So yeah, it is different to have someone like be like, here, I'm trying to help you out, and it's. I mean, it's a minor gameplay thing, but why did you drop a corpse? Why did you drop a whole body to give you a key? Like, I know that's...
Was he lugging that thing around? Like, or you just like, stab it there?
Like, just take the key off him, man. You don't need to drop a whole corpse, but... yeah, so, I mean, for me, having played through the different tutorial areas in all the games, I think Dark Souls 1 still is my favorite one. Because Dark Souls 2 feels... It just feels kind of arbitrary and, like, weird.
It really does. The level is really weird, too.
The level is weird. Like, the arch tree kind of design is interesting, but it's so random feeling. I don't think it really sets up the world much, where I feel like the Asylum really sort of, you're like, oh, okay, this whole world's crap.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like...
totally. I mean, you start off in a dungeon.
Yeah, and it's so far beyond, like, really saving, like, but you have this prophecy, so it's really compelling. You're like, oh, this place is in such bad shape, but this guy told me his extremely long family adage about...
I know, oh my gosh, I was just about to say, when that first started, I was like, wait, this guy just had this in the back of his mind, like, let me tell you this before I die.
We just say around the dinner table.
Yeah. Okay, Jimmy, time to say grace.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, but I love how it sets up the world, and I guess comparing it to something like Bloodborne, which I know you haven't played, but it doesn't really have... It has an intro, but Bloodborne tends to... I think it's less... I think it throws the player in a little bit harsher.
That's what I was just gonna
So I like that this is kind of its own separate area.
It's a bubble.
But it doesn't feel separate, like, from the world in the same way that, like, the Arch Tree opening in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And then Dark Souls 3, it's whatever. It's
Which
not...
I haven't played.
Yeah, it's kind of its own thing, and Demon Souls is explicitly a tutorial. But yeah, I like this one just for... I mean, it's a good design. It teaches you about shortcuts. I mean, there's the boss, which you have to run away from.
That was really interesting.
I
mean, it was so fitting. Yeah. I remember the first time I walked into that room, I was like, okay, yeah, this is Dark Souls, of course, there's a boss, and I've got a broken hilt. And then, I dodge his attack and ping my broken hilt off of him. I'm like, okay, this is going to take a really long time. And then I died to him. And I was in contact with you during that, and so you, of course, gave me a hint that I might want to look around. I would have been there for like 30 minutes just beating my head against that guy's brick wall, but... Yeah,
that's an interesting thing about Dark Souls, because I think it has this sort of unfair reputation for being tough. I feel like when the game presents you something that's ridiculous, because you accept it instead of necessarily looking around, which is what I think the game's really about. Yeah. But it's like the marketing, like it just like you're like, oh, it's really hard, because I think I looked it up because I tried it out a couple times and then gave up. It's like 400 hits. Oh if you want to kill, like it's a lot of hits. You don't do enough damage, and then I looked up the health and I just divided it out. I was like,
yeah, some people like start Pyromancer and take Blackfire bombs as a starting item just to make it shorter.
Yeah, like I just, and the payoff is a weapon that you need like 40 strength to one hand. So you could get there, but it's just, it's its own thing. But it is an interesting thing that they set up this thing like, oh, you have to run away. They don't really replicate that much.
No, they don't, which is interesting, because it's as though they're trying to teach you a lesson, but then they don't implement that knowledge really again. Except I would say at the Hellkite, like the Drake or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it might be
bridge.
like, oh, there's a way out of this.
Right. You
But-
don't have to just
Yeah.
try and face it.
But yeah, I knew, especially just knowing what type of player you are, that you'd be like, I'm gonna bash my head against this
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Definitely, because I know, like,
At some point I would have gotten the Demon Great Hammer.
Yeah. So, I mean, once you actually get to the Asylum Demon, full drop attack, pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you've played the game before. I mean, it's really
I found out, though, on a subsequent playthrough, if you just stand up there, he jumps up and hits you.
The Asylum
Yeah.
Demon? Oh, yeah, because he has his little wings. Yeah, and he'll...
Yeah, I didn't think he could jump that high.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
the size of him.
And getting slightly hit, but the Taurus Demon will do the same thing.
Oh, yeah, if you, go up.
If you go up...
I never tried doing that.
Oh, well, we'll have to get it. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
that's interesting.
so yeah, we got through there, and then, I mean...
Can you drop attack the Taurus Demon?
Yeah. Well, we'll get it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, the fight took me, I think, 15
Yeah,
seconds.
you told me 2 hits. I was like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
It's like, man, his right hand was really good.
Yeah. And, I mean,
Anyways.
there's not too many bosses you can do that to, but it's
No.
like the first.
A lot of mini bosses, though, like the giant rat, too, in
Yeah.
the sewers or whatever.
Yeah. But, so, get through there, giant crow,
Mm-hmm.
all pretty cool. I mean, I think the first time I saw that giant crow, I was just like, I don't know, like, you kind of accept it now, like, I accept it, but it's a pretty, like, there's not many, like, giant, I mean, there are giant animals, but, like, I don't know, just so,
Yeah.
which is really interesting, and there's
It
a
seems
lot of,
mythical in and of itself.
yeah, and there's a lot of lore things about if it's related to this goddess, but, like, it feels out of place to the point where people are like, why is there a giant crow here? It has to have some significance, because it doesn't seem normal, but
Right.
it hits you with a bunch of really interesting images. You start off in this, like, asylum for people that are just being held there until they go haul, and then this giant crow takes you. So it feels very epic. Like, the start is not at all like you experience with Dark Souls 2. There's none of this, like, I mean, the reveal of Majula is beautiful, but it's like, it's like a, kind of like when
praise
a
the sun.
Bethesda game gives you a really, it's like when a game gives you a really nice vista, and you're like, oh, this is pretty, but Dark Souls really has this, like, I don't know, it's got this really, like, sort of mythological vibe.
Yeah,
like you're on this huge quest.
Yeah.
And
No, for sure. Like when in the cutscene, it kind of slows down as it takes you.
Yeah.
It just it has that epic feel.
yeah.
I think they wanted you to feel like you've been chosen to do this.
Yeah. And then of course and then the scene continues to dropping you off in Firelink and zooms in and you sort of catch the world around you, which is nice because you're going to go to a lot of these places. You know the structure, like now having been through Anor Londo, you like are like, okay, I understand where everything is. And like, I don't know, it's just the whole thing. But Firelink Shrine. I guess my first question for that is, did you go graveyard or did you go towards the Undead Burg? Because this is a thing...
Yeah, so I didn't even know the graveyard existed until before I went to Sen's Fortress. Like, after I'd rung the 2 bells... Because that's when Firelink changed, right? Suddenly the bonfire was dead.
I'm
that
free.
later Framps there. So I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And
so you have to look around.
Yeah, so I looked around, and then I discovered the catacombs in the graveyard, and I was like, what is it?
I mean,
how did this like just show up, or has it always been there?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually 3 major paths from Firelink, but it's
crazy.
that you can immediately access.
But so to answer your question, I went to Undead Burg.
Yeah, I did the same thing, and a lot of people do go, like, it's kind of split actually, which I find interesting because I never once, I guess we've been best friends since we were like kids, so maybe that's part of, we have similar, like, just ways we process stuff, but I never even thought to look over there. Like, I immediately was like, that place is up, I'm gonna go up, I don't know if
it's like through the archways of
there's some building over here, so I don't know. There's a guy I talked to with a really ugly haircut. But otherwise, I mean, knowing now, I did my run into the graveyard to get the Zwei, which was the basis for my whole character now. But because I've never done a big sword build through, besides Bloodborne, but weapons work different in Bloodborne, so I didn't feel like it was the same. But I totally went that way too. First time, Undead Burg. But so that's just an interesting thing that I guess happens to some people. But It's kind of interesting too because Firelink is really well beloved, and there's occasionally like topics like people talk about. I guess to ask you before I explain my own thoughts is, does Firelink Shrine hold a special place in your heart, or does it like your first playthrough? It's hard to.
Yeah.
It holds definitely a contentious place.
Yeah. I am not in love with Firelink Shrine. I think the only reason I like it is because it's a safe haven.
Yeah.
But actually, my current playthrough, I mistakenly used the Firekeeper's soul, and so Firelink Shrine is dead to me now. But I mean, are we going to get into the whole level design and how things link back to it now? Because I think that's probably the reason why people love it so much, is because suddenly a new pathway opens up that returns you to this familiar, and safe haven.
Yeah, we can get it. We can get into it a bit because it's like, because it's like you said, it's like sort of like all the other games sort of have like a nexus, like Majula,
Right?
And then there's literal place called the Nexus in Demon Souls. That's what it's called. And then Bloodborne has the Hunter's Dream. Dark Souls 3 has... Well, I won't tell you. You can get to that if you ever play. But it's a Dark Souls 1 reference. You won't be surprised.
Cool.
But,
interesting.
So, it's... But, people, like, having played through Firelink Shrine first, I actually didn't have the same love. And it plays its song. The song's cool.
The song's cool. It's very, very depressing.
Yeah, and from a world...
I really don't like the layout and look of Firelink Shrine, though.
Okay.
Like, the just broken down ruins. I mean, like, obviously that's a given in Dark Souls, ruins and things of that nature. So that's not really the gripe, but it's just very confusing. It hides a lot of things, which is obviously the point. That's like what they're trying to do. But I think I appreciated the way they did it with Majula better than Firelink Shrine. Like, things were still hidden in Majula. But it just seemed a little... I don't know more.
Yeah, there actually are some secrets in Majula, and this playthrough I had more appreciation for Firelink Shrine than I think I originally did, because I really just didn't really see it even as like a hub. I mean, sure, NPCs still show up there,
really feel like one.
But like I'm so bad at collecting NPCs, especially on first playthroughs, that I didn't have that same thing. So it's sort of interesting to also come up with a discussion. Like, I think a first playthrough of Dark Souls compared to even other games in the series has the potential to hide a lot of what people really enjoy about it. But like,
I agree. I think a first playthrough in Dark Souls has a massive asterisk by it. Subsequent playthroughs, you feel like a master of the game. You just run through the entire level, not fighting a single enemy, pick up the weapon you need, and then go defeat the boss. And it's like, why did I die? And you have like 80 humanity, and you're still a human. And then the first one, you're doing horribly. You have, like, no humanity. By the time you get to the boss, you have no souls. And you missed that item. Yeah. You didn't even know where it was.
Yeah, because, I appreciated the connections of Firelink Shrine, and it's, like, a really, like, picky discussion. It's a small thing. But, like, the Hunter's Dream, to me, sure, it's separate from the world. Just, like, Majula's even a little bit more in. Like, this is literally the Hunter's Dream of Bloodborne, which is my favorite hub, which is why I'm bringing it up. It's just, like... Bloodborne's also my favorite of the series, so I'm biased, but like the sense of place, maybe that's what you're getting at too. The sense of place feels less strong to me in Firelink than other places. It has the song, and I know there's tons of people who love Dark Souls who are probably screaming right now because they're like, Firelink's the best. But it's a cool place, but it's just...
Can you speak for them? Like, why would they say Firelink is the best?
I think it's just that safe haven, especially if you get NPCs there, it actually can be quite populated. Yeah. So it really feels like this home away from, especially in Dark Souls, where when you feel like you're traveling out from Firelink, even if that's not necessarily true, because you keep coming back to it. So I think it really feels like that sort of sense of home. And it's safe.
Yeah, I would say there are some stretches where that doesn't feel the case, though.
Yeah.
Going through Blighttown.
Yeah, and I think that's intentional. And
right. And I agree.
Yeah, and we might as well say some things about the world design now. I mean,
Firelink.
Sort of,
it's in the name. It links the world. So
So I mean, that's the big thing about Dark Souls 1 that really stands out from the other games. So you've kind of talked about it, but how do you feel about the world design? I mean, that's a huge selling point for a lot of people.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
Like not warping too being the other obviously major thing attached to this. There's no warping, but you have this whole interconnected world.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I won't lie, I definitely miss the warping. Just from like I don't want to waste my life, like the actual time of my life running back and forth between these places. I really appreciate the developers of the game throwing us that bone in Dark Souls 2. And I mean, that's just a whiny standpoint, though.
I think it's something to bring up, though, because it doesn't get replicated again. And a lot of people love it, and I will say that I'm a huge fan of the world design because I think it was incredibly complicated to make. But I don't think you can just... I think it changes the flow of things. Like, when you can warp, it's the quality of life, but it also changes, like, if I'm going from bonfire to bonfire and I can warp, it's like I don't need to go back between those two areas anymore.
Right.
Because it essentially doesn't need to exist anymore. I just need to get to the points I want to.
Right.
And
I think that's why I like it too. I think that's why I like the warping and why I like the level design of Dark Souls 2 is because I like completing things and checking things off. And so I appreciate the fact that, okay, I've completed this level in a sense.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate how things are interconnected in Dark Souls and sort of the atmosphere it creates, not being able to warp and having to run through locations and discovering new ways that they link back to Firelink Shrine or link to a new area, and you realize you can go to that area from a new direction.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's a fun experience. But I think the warping tailors to my style of play better, where I'm just, I'm a min-maxer, like I said. I like to get things done effectively and efficiently, and so I just appreciate the option of doing that.
Yeah. And I think an interesting thing, you're talking about that asterisk on the Dark Souls 1 playthrough, is it's interesting in future playthroughs, then because you know how the world's connected,
right?
You realize that Dark Souls 1 is perhaps the most open game at the start. Like, you can really sequence break, especially with the master key. It makes it super easy to, like, you don't even have to ring the bell first. You can go down all the way into Blighttown if you want to.
Yeah, and I did that on one of my second characters.
Yeah,
and I went against Quelaag.
So, like, I think it's an interesting thing because I think the way the world works makes it more appealing to me from a replayability standpoint to know I can break the levels. Whereas, like, Dark Souls 2 is like, no, I have to go through the Forest of Fallen Giants, especially the Scholar of the First Sin, the like remastered edition of Dark Souls 2 they made. They put petrified people everywhere, sort of forcing you to actually be more linear. And then Dark Souls 3, I never beat the final DLC for that, and part of the reason is because I don't like going into an old character months after having played them. I'm just like one of those people that has to have, like, I have to know what's going on. I have to start fresh, but I just don't want to because it's so linear. I'm like, I don't want to have to play through this area and do
That's a good point. Yeah. I hadn't considered that, and I'm definitely not. I'm not totally against how Dark Souls presents itself and the level design of one. I can definitely see the merits of it, and they did a good job utilizing it to give you the feeling of you're lost. You're like alone in this world, and you have to get through. Yeah.
I think you might find too, if you get to Demon Souls or Bloodborne, that Demon Souls is a series of discrete levels that aren't connected at all. You travel through archstones to levels, and they look totally different. They act totally different, but the level design means it's very shortcut heavy. You have an archstone, you have a shortcut that keeps bringing you back, and then you take a shorter... It's like you're taking a shorter path every time you open up a shortcut to get to the boss. And Bloodborne it doesn't have...
Some of the levels in Dark Souls mimic that. In Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, like the Painted World is an obvious example where it just keeps coming back on itself, and there's like one way. That's very Demon Souls. And there's actually a ton of Demon Souls references in the Painted World.
How funny.
I think that was intentional.
Yeah, for sure.
But you might, and I just am very evangelical about it, but if you ever get a chance to play Bloodborne,
I can tell.
It may come across to be...
This podcast should be called Try Bloodborne.
It might hit between what you're thinking of, because it's a kind of an interconnected world, but you can travel, but you can warp.
Because I agree, like Dark Souls 2, you have to play through that level, and that is annoying. It is really obnoxious and is a waste of time. So although you're gaining some time being able to warp, so I can see the merits of both, I suppose.
So we've had our big world design discussion right at the start, which is good. But there's a lot of world to
talk about.
Just despite how it's all connected, you go to the Undead Burg, and I mean, I don't have a ton to say about it. I mean, the first time I played, it was obviously
pretty straightforward.
That's where someone who's playing Dark Souls for the first time, if they start with 1, that's the area you spend like 5 hours in trying to figure. You did like Forest of the Fallen Giants,
right?
So like you just probably that experience.
Which they feel similar.
They feel,
especially the vibe they generate.
Yeah, I mean it's a bunch of it's the same progression of enemies. Like I think it's a well designed area, and my big thing is I guess that does stand out is I love every time I go to the Undead Burg that first Black Knight who's down the stairs just facing away from you, like it's so intimidating. That this guy would just stand facing away from you, but he looks real big. Yeah. And like
it's like he's tempting you.
Even having played through the series, I just find it very intimidating to see him. Like if he was facing you, it would be intimidating, but I think it's the fact that like he's presenting this like vulnerable position.
Well, it's a free backstab if you can sneak up.
Yeah, he looks very confident though. It really like, and playing him this time, I was like, having been through the series, I was surprised how easy it was to get backstabs on him. Yeah. Like, they're actually really easy to fight now.
Yeah, they are.
But
I sometimes struggle parrying them still.
Yeah, like the parry, I just end up doing the thing where you circle around them like a weirdo.
Exactly, yeah, you just circle, I think it's to the right.
And then they stop for a second, so you get around them, and then you just backstab them. I mean, or with those I started to get I can knock them down if I two-hand them. So like, nice. And then
makes it
then
easy.
It's a game over for that. But
cake.
Still very intimidating, so I just really love that intro.
Yeah, and so having played Dark Souls before, Dark Souls 2, I knew what to expect. I saw that guy, I was like, okay, I'm skipping this for now, just to see if there's like a bonfire up ahead or something like that.
I really think the Black Knights are the best version of that like tough enemy who gets scattered across the game. Because I don't like Dark Souls 2 doesn't have it has those knights.
They're like the Hide Knights or whatever.
But they just
and they have one in Forest of the Giants.
Yeah, and he's like sitting down, so he's also kind of intimidating in that way.
But he's just laying there. I remember the first time I was like approaching him, like, is that a dead body or can I hit this thing?
Yeah, it just made me wish that they kept that. Like, I just wish they had some version of
like
that.
The Black Knights.
Yeah, like not necessarily Black Knights, but just like because they're in a lot of the game, especially the early part, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, so maybe, but I just really love just these like mini boss encounters. Like, and like I think
Havels is there too.
I think Dark Souls 2 makes up for it by having a lot of bosses.
Yeah, which I definitely like.
You like the number of bosses?
Yeah, I do. I think the boss fights for me is why I play Dark Souls.
So going into that, Taurus demon. Was it pretty easy? It was pretty easy. Like,
I've never that was unimaginative and easy.
I wonder. I've never just fought the Taurus demon, so I don't know what that looks like. Because I always go up the ladder, kill the archers.
I've never done that.
And it took two drop attacks.
So
that's why
I'm gonna try that.
It was amazing. I was just like, I felt so powerful, just falling on him and doing like half of his health. Maybe slightly less because I also took a swing at him when I'm running. Like, because I drop attack him, and then I run to the end of the bridge, let him charge, roll through him, and then go back
up. Because he could hit you when you're going up the ladder.
And if you wait too long up there, he'll jump up, too. Which is...
He jumps down from the other side.
It's terrifying to watch him jump up at you. I've had that on previous attempts on him. But he's a piece of cake.
That is awesome.
I mean, I guess so tutorial... It's different because the last giant is sort of the tutorial boss. He's sort of more like the Asylum demon than the Taurus. But I think it goes back to also why I like...
That's interesting, because that's a really long time frame. A much longer time frame than Dark Souls 1. Yeah. To introduce you to a boss and what Dark Souls is about. Boss fights,
Yeah, because I mean that's obviously a huge component of how you get through the game is beating bosses. So to keep that from you, I think that's another reason. I just love the Asylum demon. Gives you so much.
Yeah, I was just laughing to myself when I was playing it because I was just saying, this is Dark Souls. They would do this.
So got through the Taurus demon pretty easy. He's not much to deal with overall.
No, I had more trouble with the stupid bridge afterwards.
So did you meet Solaire after the Taurus demon?
Yes, I did.
So you met like the biggest meme of Dark Souls.
I know. Yeah.
So how I just interested like coming kind of knowing the series, having seen the stuff, and then you actually meet this character. I mean, it's just like
it's funny. I just laughed at the way he looks. It's like, oh, there he is.
I mean, he's so friendly, but definitely
he's so friendly.
Yeah,
Like, you're a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, and then like the sun's beaming behind him too. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is funny.
Yeah, like it's really charming and stuff. It's just funny coming from that. So then there's the Drake, the Hellkite Drake, and how did you deal with the whole fire breathing?
Very poorly.
Really?
Yeah. So
did you lose a bunch of souls after?
I did. I actually lost the Taurus demon souls I garnered.
Yeah, I think that's a cheap shot. I think that's kind of.
It was not fun.
Yeah, I don't think it's fun.
I hate those things in games. You know, you turn a corner, a boulder rolls over you. I mean, they do that in the Undead Asylum as well, and that's just like, okay, like you're just playing with me at this point. But again, I was in contact with you, and so I think you reminded me, like, don't just try and run through the bridge or try to get through it. And that's when I realized that there was a stairwell up ahead. But I definitely was caught there for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then I just kind of looked it up.
Yeah,
after
exactly.
I'd made the shortcut back to the original bonfires, and that's when I found out you could like use the Drake sword. Or you could shoot his tail off.
And you got the Drake sword.
Yeah.
You used it for however long it's good for.
Yeah, because I wasn't using the Uchi yet.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't kill the undead male merchant until I had, I think, Rain the first spell.
Yeah, I respect anyone who plays through Dark Souls completely blind, but for whatever reason, I knew about the Hellkite Drake Tail, probably because I got bathed in fire too and was bashing my head thinking, oh, this is Dark Souls, this is how you're supposed to...
Right.
And then, so I found it, and I used the Drake Sword a lot, and then eventually found out it's kind of crap, but, like, it's good. It's good right when you start.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of a rite of passage to pick up the Drake Sword and be like, I got the Drake Sword now, because you feel pretty powerful.
You do. Yeah, you just start one or two shotting those enemies.
Yeah, so... And then, as a small note, the rats in Dark Souls are so small.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
they're like they're not.
You miss them so often.
Yeah, they're not rat sized, but they're like
your weapon can literally hit the air above them.
Yeah, they're like cat ones, and eventually, by the time you get to like, I mean, there's the giant one in the sewer, but I feel like through the series, the rats slowly get larger and larger until like you couldn't not swing and hit them. I wonder if that was part of it, or it's just as comically like we have to make them scarier each time.
Yeah, they're really not scary. I mean, they move really slow. They oftentimes, I've noticed, they run away from you.
Yeah,
towards like a corner.
Yeah, they're like try to trap you, get you in a bad situation if like someone pops out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just funny how small they were. I guess they've been fed well over the series.
Yeah.
And then
on all the souls of dead players.
So then you get your like cool ladder shortcut down in the Undead Burg. Nice. You get the Parish opened up. So how was your experience with the Parish?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know the name of it, but that like boar rhino thing, armored boar. Yeah,
the armored boar. Yeah,
that was. I had pyromancies, so it actually wasn't that hard. I just found that I could lure it and get it to make an attack and just burn it down. So luckily I wasn't trying to swing at it. So I got through that actually pretty easily. And then the Baldur Knights posed some trouble, especially I got reposted on the ones that have the buckler and stuff. Yeah, that was super annoying. But overall, the Undead Parish didn't pose too much of an issue for me. Once you get through and you kill the Tower Knight or whatever, pick up the Firekeeper soul, and then you find out there's that elevator that brings you back down to Firelink, you feel pretty safe. Yeah. At that point, I sensed I'd conquered this level. Yeah. I was like, okay, the boss is probably up ahead. Yeah. And I had in my mind from Dark Souls 2 that the gargoyles were a repeat boss. And I just I was intuitively getting, okay, I'm probably going up against the gargoyles here. Yeah. And that was the case. So I kind of knew that when I got to the top of the tower, I'd be facing the boss. So I just went back down to Firelink Shrine. Yeah. And reinforced my Estus and came back.
Because you didn't find Andre in that bonfire over near Sen's Fortress.
No.
So you took a real, not a real gamble, because it's really kind of the same distance if you go in the church, if you go down there. Right. I was just thinking, man, how much it would suck to not find either one of those, because you're kind of far out.
Suck. Yeah,
that is suck. A pretty, like, what you're talking about, the space thing, that's a pretty, like, for your first time, like, you don't know what's going to happen next, so you have to go through all that weird, like, because I assume the gate fell.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, when I came to the Undead Parish, and, the you hear that, like, noise where you've entered a new realm,
Yeah.
I paused. I was like, okay, I didn't really fight about it. The Taurus demon, I was like, is that really the boss of Undead Burg? Like, there's no way. And so I definitely paused and spent some time exploring alternate directions, because it seemed like this feels too far.
Yeah. Without something
Right.
punctuating it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's pretty standard for me. I actually so I knew where Andre was, so I was upgrading and stuff.
Yeah.
My weapon, and then I had the Firelink connection that I used to get up there. Nothing really special. It was interesting to me that it did take me a few tries for the gargoyles. I don't know if it's the inherent slowness of the Zweihander, but also I had to just remember the geometry, how you can kind of use that to your advantage, so that the fire doesn't...
peak of the...
Yeah.
I remember that too. Actually, on another character that I was playing through, I was having a lot more trouble. I think I beat the gargoyles my first time on my Pyro Dex character.
Yeah.
It felt really good. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and then
that was much easier.
Then the bell rings, and it's like, oh, I'm halfway through the game. But, so the Parish, nothing big. I banged my head against the Titanite Demon for too long. That Titanite Demon's hard, and I forgot about him in the hitboxes on the Titanite Demon were like challenging to me. I kept getting hit by his tail.
Right, yeah, his tail poses a problem.
Yeah, like if you dodge his like trident or whatever,
like whips around.
So for some reason, before I even find the gargoyles, I bashed my head against him for like a few tries, and then I was like, I don't know what.
It's hard melee, I think, on the Titanite Demon.
Yeah.
One of my newer characters is I'm using the rapier and buckler and going for like a theme of parrying, but without pyromancies or magic.
Yeah, to have that extra bit.
Yeah, it just hurts.
It's hard to close it. And then, so moving on from there is a pretty infamous part is the lower Undead Burg and Capra, which is that's actually a stopping point for a lot of people.
I feel like a pro against Capra. I'm not gonna lie. I beat him on my first time, I beat him on like my third or fourth try, with just blindly, not even knowing what the boss was. I opened... I guessed that was the boss room, and so I went...
Yeah.
I found that shortcut back to Firelink through, like, the long sewer. And came back, went in, he leapt at me and just slaughtered me, and I was like, okay, I see how to do this. So went back in, dodged his attack, and then found out there were dogs in the room. Died. I was like, okay... I still have to do this.
Those dogs.
Went back in. And then I didn't quite time killing the dogs right, so I died that time. Again, rinse, repeat. And then on the fourth time, I just, you just kind of attack the dog before it leaps at you. Attack the other one before it leaps at you. And then it's just playing, it's just tango with him.
Yeah.
But then on a subsequent character, I beat him first try. And
nice.
That feels good.
I managed to do Capra first try. Especially after my trouble with the gargoyles, I was worried about being slower.
Oh, right.
But I think it really comes down to, because I had a lot of trouble when I originally played through the game, I think I just my hands will never be able to forget how I need to move to get through the first 3 seconds of the fight.
Right, it's been so ingrained in your fight and flight.
This, dodge left at this, kind of, angle, immediately, and then I
typically dodge through him.
I dodged obliquely left through the dogs, run up the stairs, and then I killed the dogs. The
stairs are huge.
And then I got the dogs both in one hit with the Zwei.
Oh, nice.
Which was probably what got me the first try, because all the way up to them, the dogs were giving me, I was having to, heal after, every
I know, there's, 3 dogs that attack you as soon as you...
Because the way they, kind of float, fly, jump,
It's so annoying.
Dogs are one of the worst enemies in the whole series, and they might be peak bad here, actually. I just couldn't... they kept getting inside of my attack, and then it's pretty easy once they're gone, because I don't know.
It is.
Actually, I do drop attacks on Capra, too.
Oh, yeah, you could.
Because I go up the stairs, I hide out there like a little wimp, he tries to follow you, falls down, and then you drop, and it took 2 hits.
Oh my gosh,
I was like,
pathetic.
This is how I'm going to play this game.
So funny. I just dance around him.
I felt cool, but also I felt cheap, because I was I'm using the fact that he can't...
You died inside.
I was like, this is a cheese, but it's okay.
I did this for the past 3 bosses.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have to stop doing this soon.
Yeah, they're not going to give you those in the future.
So then we get to the depths, which was pretty uneventful for me. Actually, I just kind of did my thing, went through it, but you had an experience.
Yeah, I hated the depths. I don't know. I think it was late at night, and I was just tired.
Yeah, you're at the end, like you got through Capra, but you wanted to keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Deaths are just awful. I got so lost in there.
Yeah.
Just turned around, cursed by the... I actually got cursed by the... And I knew what would happen.
Yeah.
I played Dark Souls 2, so I've seen these stupid lizards before. I was like, hey, I gotta avoid this. And I was doing well. I think I fell... So I was doing well exploring the level, but I never found the bonfire.
Yeah.
And so I was running low on resources. And then I fell through one of those stupid openings in the floor.
Yeah.
And back into the Basilisk pit. And I had gone back... or I had died, I forget which, and so they had respawned, and I just got caught in a cloud of it, and got cursed, and I was like, oh, this sucks.
And as a note, you're playing unpatched. I think
point,
I should have put that up front. You're playing through the game at this point unpatched.
So the female undead merchant did not sell the curse remedy.
Yeah.
So I had to go all the way back to the... to, what is it, the Parish?
Yeah, you have to go see... You have to go see Oswald up in the tower. That's
so annoying.
It's a bit of a jog.
That's where I think I began to hate the Dark Souls.
I was going to say
layout.
I was like, because I think there's an argument that Blighttown feels cool because you're so desperate. You're like, I hate this place, but I have to get through it. But getting cursed and then having to walk back feels like a quality of life issue. It feels like a penalty for exploring, which it's a penalty for falling through a really hard to see square. Like, the water flows into them, typically, but I almost did it, too. I didn't actually do it. I actually, somehow, walked across it.
You can, or you can roll.
Yeah.
I think you can even roll
I think I just happened to hit it right, and then I looked back and I was like, oh, boy. Because I know what's down there. So,
actually, I think what happened was I didn't accidentally fall down it. I was so desperate at that point, trying to find...
the bonfire.
I was so lost, trying to find the bonfire. I was like, you know what? Let's see what's down here.
Yeah, and
my eternal regret.
That's an understandable thing to be frustrated about. And also, it's a quality of life. Like, I can't get out of here, but it's not tension. It's inconvenience.
Curse is such a stupid mechanic.
Curse
is
it's
only there for the most part. And at least that I've come across so far in the game.
Yeah.
And it's just it's such a stupid mechanic. Like, here, you're just going to lose half your health. So you basically have to go buy this item to fix it. Like, what's the point?
Yeah. If you don't I'm
a little bitter.
Yeah. Well, and I was just thinking, it is interesting when you take away someone's health. It's like you can do it, but it's not baked into the game. It's specifically a punishment.
Right.
Playing Dark Souls 2 with the effigies, I'm sure you learn to just let your health drop or just use the ring to help it. But it doesn't. It feels like the game's balanced around this.
Right. Exactly. So, it felt like a mechanic.
It feels less desperate to have.
Less health.
Yeah, if you have half health here, you're like, oh crap, this isn't how it's supposed to.
Yeah, because it's specific to this instance, so it's new.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to correct this.
Yeah.
I haven't been playing the game with this feature.
Yeah.
I can't continue to play it with it.
Yeah, especially because Gaping Dragon could probably one-shot you at that point.
Yeah.
How was your... How do you feel about Gaping Dragon?
So... I sensed when I was coming up to that point, because we talked a little bit since I did get lost and cursed and stuff like that. You were pretty excited about my going up against Gaping Dragon.
Yeah.
And I was relatively unimpressed. This is where I was beginning to feel like I preferred the bosses in Dark Souls 2 over Dark Souls 1. Yeah. Gaping, you just kind of stay clear of his mouth. And, don't get hit by his legs when he's moving around. And it just felt pretty easy. There was one time where I hadn't seen his vomit deluge attack that corrodes your armor. And so I got caught by that. And so that was a little interesting. I was like, oh, okay, how often did you do that? Because I hadn't seen it yet. But then I just avoided it.
Yeah.
So it was... Yeah. He was cool. It's cool that he's got this giant mouth on his body.
Yeah, that's the thing is
neat looking.
I think Gaping Dragon.
But mechanically, I guess it wasn't that interesting.
Yeah, Gaping Dragon is one of my favorite of all the video game boss looks.
Oh, okay.
Just because it's so cool. His rib cage opens up, he's trying to chomp you. He has this little head. The cutscene sort of you see his little head, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna fight another little basilisk thing, and then you're like, oh my god, he's huge. But then the fight is so lame. I did it one try with the Zwei. It was actually probably a pretty good build, but literally just stand behind him. I cut off his tail in a few swings, but then I'm just
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, there's tail weapons in the game that you can cut off.
I found that out on second playthrough I did against gargoyles. It's like, oh, you can get his tail.
Yeah, it makes them easier, but it also means you can just stand behind them, essentially. And
right.
then he'll flip around, you just walk around him again. And it was like a minute of my life where, or maybe even a couple, because he has a lot of health.
Yeah, it's just annoying. And
it's just like, it didn't feel cool, and I was like, I'm literally just walking behind him. And it's such a lame...
There are sub-enemies that are more interesting to fight than that.
Yeah, and so it's like the gargoyles were a much better fight.
Right.
Like, they're a different thing, too. There's multiple enemies.
Like, at least there's at least mechanics in play.
Yeah.
And
that's the only one I had trouble with coming up to it, so I was like, it feels so lame. It's just like, the other bosses, at least I dropped and killed them. It felt like a little action. Like, this is just, I can't drop and kill this one. I don't know what I'm going to do. But it was just, like, boring. Like, which is, like, the worst thing, like, especially given...
He looks so cool.
Yeah, especially given how cool he is. It's so lame that it's like, I can just stand behind this guy, and he doesn't... Somehow he can't, like, turn enough.
Yeah.
Like, which it's so...
So I was disappointed. I definitely... Like I said, I think I've come to learn that I play Dark Souls for the bosses and understanding their mechanics. And they just look cool, too. Like, that's a huge factor.
Yeah.
So this one was a little boring.
Yeah, and so now... It's sort of a big one, Blighttown.
Blighttown.
So that's infamous.
Yeah.
And you're playing on the Xbox 360, unpatched. I don't know if that makes a difference for Blighttown, but it plays like garbage, like the frame rate.
Yes,
so
it does. It's horrible.
I assume you got it's like the worst version of it, probably.
Yeah. Like as soon as the torch comes into the screen, it just shuts it down. No, but it was interesting going into Blighttown after playing Dark Souls 2, because I had been in...
even though
what's it called?
The dark place, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember.
And so I honestly was disappointed because it took away from the novelty of Blighttown. It felt like a repeat.
Well, play the whole series because there's a poison swamp in every game.
Yeah, okay.
Like that's a standby.
It's just a staple.
Which it started in Demon Souls, but it's interesting to hear that because
as soon as it like dimmed, it was like Blighttown, and I saw scaffolding and stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, this is. I know what to expect here. I'm going on a long trek through this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because I always think about the one in Dark Souls 2 just mostly being dark, but I guess it's also like
you need the torch.
It's a navigation problem.
Yeah,
because Blighttown's so weird to navigate.
It is. So I almost felt like I knew what to expect, which took away from the experience of it, and I felt a little disappointed when I was watching, the Blighttown come up.
Yeah.
Just in that was taken away from that, but that's not to say it still wasn't an experience. And having those like the giant barbarian guys who just swing their clubs at you to start, I was really tired at that point, and I could not get past them.
Yeah.
But the next day when I played it, I just backstabbed them a bunch.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah. So did that mean you had a relatively okay time getting through to the first bonfire and then down?
Well, that night when I first arrived there, like I said, I was really struggling against those guys. I couldn't get past them. Yeah. Eventually, I resorted to trying to run past them.
Yeah.
And that was a terrible idea. I had so many poison darts flying at me and all these stupid little goblin things trying to kill me. So I immediately regretted that decision. But afterwards, the next day, I just took a more methodical approach, which you should always do in Dark Souls, unless you know where you're going. And I didn't have that much trouble. No. Yeah. I really didn't.
Well, it's like one of those gauntlets that's sort of like a rite of passage to playing it, but I think that's one of the things where having some previous experience helps. Because
I knew what to expect. I knew, okay, just work your way through this section. Just take it slow.
Yeah.
Don't do anything drastic, especially don't roll around like a maniac.
Yeah. My previous experience weighed heavily on this playthrough because I went in the back door of Blighttown and was done with it in about 15 minutes.
That's what I did too on my other playthroughs. I'm skipping that.
I was like, you know what? I've already done it once, which is not a credit to the overall. But it's cool that Firelink will let me just pop on down and I just have to
there's Quelaag.
Yeah, okay. and Quelaag is I really like Quelaag, because like I said, the boss has been kind of easy for me besides the gargoyles, and so I got her in one try. Yeah. But I felt good about it. Unlike Gaping Dragon, I walked away being like, well, her design is problematic. Like the whole cutscene, you know, showing like some naked spider lady is kind of like it's.
I know, it was weird. I was like, what are they doing here?
It's kind of weird stuff lingering, but the like area control with the lava, like it's pretty cool.
There's at least something you have to be mindful of.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I can't roll that way because I kind of remembered her moveset, so I was like, oh, I can go this way, but I can't now. So it's kind of cool to have to like be tactical and switch up on the fly. And she's pretty tough. Yeah, so
I hate her AoE shockwave thing she does.
Yeah, punishes you for being up close.
And one time I was like stuck in her legs, like a cage, and I knew it was coming. I easily could have gone away from it,
but you were punished.
But I couldn't. I was like, no.
Yeah, I think after beating her, I think my most memorable thing of like getting back through this and sort of speaking to the world design. I'm used to, if you touch a bonfire, I swear, am I going crazy? If you touch a bonfire in other games and you die, you go back to the bonfire you've like lit, but in Dark Souls you have to actually rest at a bonfire. Oh, and okay.
I think you have to rest in Dark Souls.
I don't remember why, but for some reason I
remember making that same mistake.
I keep playing under the impression that I light it and then I'm good. Oh. So I went to Quelaag's domain.
Oh no.
And then I did the stuff, and then I went the back way out of Blighttown, and then sort of getting into the next area, I went to the Asylum. Yeah. And I did not rest at Firelink Shrine. I did not even touch it. I forgot. And then I went there, and I was like feeling a little cocky for some reason. So I was like, I'm not gonna rest. I'm not gonna like
any of the bonfires.
On any of the bonfires, I'm gonna go because I knew where the stray demon would be.
Yeah.
So I fell right into the hole with the stray demon and died. And I ended up back in Quelaag's domain.
Yeah. No, you definitely have to rest.
And that hurt. And then I died getting out of Blighttown because I fell.
So you lost your souls.
I fell off that thing.
Yeah. I've had that same thing happen to me.
And then I had to go back through it again. And
I've gone through that Blighttown elevator so many times.
And so that was the time when I was like, you know what, warping.
Warping sounds nice.
I'll take warping right now because I just forgot to sit there.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's I don't know.
It's so detrimental to the playthrough.
I don't know if it's an excuse for it, but it's an experience. I don't know if that means it's a good design, but it was an experience that I won't forget. But it wasn't fun.
Right. It's not. Yeah. So and that's always a question in terms of design. Like, what is fun?
Yeah.
What is the experience of the player?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done that so many times. You die somewhere along the way through the Valley of Drakes or getting to Dark Root Basin or whatever it's called, and then you respawn in Blighttown and you're like, no. Because you know there's a chance you'll die going up those ladders and going up that elevator because you just might miss your roll or something stupid like that.
Exactly. What a horrible walk. Alright, so now the Undead Asylum, returning to it with the crow. I mean, how do you feel about that whole, like, I mean, did you know?
No, and I never would have found it. Not in my
I'm pretty sure I prompted you to be like, hey, before Sun's Fortress, maybe found a way to get back to the end.
Yeah, you did. I'm glad you did, so I could go to Painted World. But I don't know how people find these things out without looking them up.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a slight hint with the crows. If you happen to see them walking out of the asylum, you know that you can go back there to trade if you've played Demon Souls.
Oh, right.
But you're not going to necessarily know how. And then you have to make the connection. Oh, here's the elevator. Why is it open to Firelink? It looks like a pretty view, but it's also a functional way to get you.
Usually when I step on the elevators, I'm not checking out the walls.
Yeah, and it's good to know.
My inventory or something like that.
Playing forward the series, if an elevator's not
do that
closed,
so often.
Like there's a thing. Like it's like if there's a waterfall, there's something behind it.
So true.
So like otherwise they just don't put there. But I mean, so actually getting to the Undead Asylum is whatever. I actually like. I don't like falling the stream, and I already talked about how I had some issues. I don't like having to take a health hit. Feels kind of like it's like you said with the curse, like it's just kind of annoying, and it's like a small thing with the boss, like why do I have to take damage guaranteed at the start,
right?
And otherwise he's like a copy paste of not a full copy paste because he's bigger, but he was fine. I mean, just it's sort of a weird comparison, but like the play of him is like better than like the Great Gaping Dragon. He's just not super cool looking because you've already kind of seen him.
You've already seen him. It's more interesting than Gaping Dragon because there's at least...
He does stuff.
Yeah, there's mechanics in play.
He butt slams.
He butt slams. You're basically facing his butt the whole time.
Yeah, I mean...
It's like the best way to fight him. You're just like staring at his butt.
Yeah.
Which is disturbing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Boss fight.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Just like a weird thought experiment. What if they didn't put a boss title card on that Stray Demon? Would it be a really cool moment all of a sudden because you're not thinking of him as a boss, you're thinking of him as this random thing that exists? Like, so there wouldn't be fog gates. You could escape it, but you could also fight him. Yeah. I think that would make him cooler where it doesn't feel so mandatory.
Yeah. Because he does feel like a mini boss.
Even if he's optional, when you put a boss thing on, you're like, I gotta beat the guy now. Like, so, like, he's not a horrible fight, not super interesting, but I think my favorite part of the Undead Asylum is the peculiar at all is just your key to get there. Mm-hmm. But finding Oscar and finding him all hollowed, and it's like he said he was going to be hollowed. And it's just because unlike that, like I guess I'm sort of contrasting it because like that, not that you would make him a boss, but like there's nothing given to his presentation. He's just there hollowed. Right. But because of his like kindness to you, like it's a much bigger like emotional beat. Yeah, it's a much bigger moment where like that felt like the real climax of being in the Undead Asylum for me. Yeah. Totally and it's over in like 2 seconds. I just Y-handed him like twice. I knocked him to the ground and just chopped him to bits. But
I reposted him.
But that's a good moment, and it's just like
it's just because it creates closure for all of that.
Yeah,
because I definitely, when I was first in the Undead Asylum and he's like, I don't want to hurt you or whatever, I waited. I was like, okay, he's going to go hollow and he's going to attack me from behind as soon as I leave this room. And he never did. Yeah. And so that was interesting until I came back.
So have that payoff delayed. You're like, okay. Yeah. It adds some weight because you're like, oh yeah, this guy again.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm like, I'm going to kill him now.
Yeah. But so I got through that, and then it's off to Sen's Fortress, which is another like sort of infamous, but also really well-loved section of Dark Souls.
I love Sen's Fortress.
It's very video gamey in the fact that like I don't, but it's like
it's a fun detour from the normal.
But yeah, like I like how they concentrate. They're like traps are kind of annoying, but if we give you a house of traps and you're expecting them, that makes them less annoying because it's your fault if you're not expecting a trap.
And so it caters to previous knowledge.
Yeah,
like coming back to Sen's Fortress, it's so easy. You just run right through it.
Yeah, it's like it's just this really cool gauntlet that like is very artificial feeling in that it's not something I can relate to. It doesn't feel like a real place, but it's also set up because like I didn't actually speak to Frampt this time, but you know you ring the bells, Frampt shows up, you talk to him.
So weird.
And he sends you on your like mission. It feels very Heroes Questy again. Like I have to get through this crazy fortress. Yeah. But yeah, how do you feel about Frampt? I mean,
Frampt's weird. So weird looking. What is that?
I mean, he's a primordial servant.
He has like a mustache. His teeth.
The
noises he makes.
He's not the only one.
Yeah, right.
There's another one who I talk to. Yeah, but it's pretty convoluted. I think you have to never talk to Frampt in order for Koth to show up.
Oh, interesting.
And he shows up later on, not part of this, after Four Kings.
Okay,
but. Yeah, like they look the same roughly, but yeah.
Frampt was confusing to me.
He's such a weird element.
He just kind of shows up with this ulterior,
yeah, like
I don't know, path.
Did you trust him? Did you feel
no,
like
not at all?
Yeah, like
it's like, and I can feed him. Like, what the heck? I'm not feeding him anything. Yeah. I mean, I learned that obviously it's just a way to get souls.
But yeah, it's like the whole thing is set up.
Trash bin.
But I mean, like
he just feels like a trash bin.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's interesting though because it's like that. This was why you rang those bells.
Was to summon
to wake up Frampt. Because
really, I didn't even know that.
After you ring the first bell, you hear him snoring. If you go to Firelink.
Yes, I did.
And then if you ring it again, he wakes up. So it's like that's the point of the bells is to wake up Frampt.
I never made that
which
connection.
Is super silly. Yeah, so
that
like
is really dumb.
So
downplays the bells. Because that's interesting.
And it opens up Sen's Fortress.
Right. Well, that's what I thought. But it also point was.
But that's why I think they're called Bells of Awakening.
Yeah.
Like
that makes sense
because they're supposed to wake them up. But yeah. So it opens up Sen's Fortress and presents Frampt. But yeah, it's so like it's another thing like the Crow. He's such a weird element. It feels very mythological, but he's also goofy. So I appreciate him for that. Yeah. I think he's such a weird design that
I just kind of want to forget him almost. Yeah. Like I kind of just.
You don't
he's
want
there. I
he's
kind
in
of
your
want to ignore him
nightmares.
because he's weird.
Yeah.
I don't really want him to be in Firelink. It's like, okay, why did you show up?
Well, you and Crestfallen.
Can you fall down that pit? I've never tried.
I'm sure you can. I don't know if I have you there.
It's like,
Crestfallen doesn't like him either.
yeah.
He complains so hard about him. And then
I
he's-
never followed that dialogue.
And then he's just like, eventually he's just like, I'm going to go do something about it, and goes down in New
Yeah,
Londo
then
and
he
dies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like Frampton. I'm sad that they actually don't show up in the other games.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they did.
They seem like an element that should, like,
Yeah, totally.
You know,
follow
like-
you kind of in the
yeah,
course of the game.
because they feel like they're
because
like,
they should be always.
I mean,
there.
you haven't played through the entire of the game yet, but like they
No.
feel like they're these players who are actually kind of pulling the strings. Like they
Okay.
feel like these people who are like kind of outside of it, like looking in, playing games.
Yeah,
So like,
so it makes sense then for them.
but
to
yeah,
follow
you'll
through
have
it.
to continue with Frampton, see if you grow on him. Like, he's weird, and I appreciate the goofiness because I don't know, that flesh mustache.
I mean, I like him. It's just
Have you gone down into the Firelink altar? Did you give him the? Did you?
not yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you'll have to see that. 'Cause I won't spoil it for you.
Okay.
But it's just a weird. Yeah, you'll just have to do it because it looks really funny.
Okay.
there's something especially with Fram that's like hilarious.
Okay,
Um,
I'm excited now.
But so yeah,
Sense Fortress.
Sense Fortress is it's pretty cool gauntlet. I mean,
It is.
I kind of forgot where the bonfire at the top was when I
Oh,
got to it because
shoot.
it's kind of like, and so I found it, but that was tense because
I don't like that they did that. That they just like hit it on the side there. I don't think if I knew that existed, I would have thought you have to run through this whole thing just to get to the boss.
Yeah.
And I never would have found it.
which like feels like it's the point, but it also feels like it's super annoying. Like
It'd be
just
too
let me
difficult.
just like once I finally get through all that, I can understand it
It's
feeling
just too
cheap
long of a
Yeah.
run.
because then there's the explosive things. You could easily die accidentally. at
Exactly,
that
yeah.
point. It feels so. I can relate. I was like felt very tense. Like I need to get to the bonfire now.
Yeah, you have to.
Because it took me a couple tries to get there. So because with the Zwei, I didn't really have any range stuff. I just like
tight
didn't-
corridors too.
Yeah, I didn't just the guys throwing lightning at you. Like it just kind of
they're
messed
so
me up a
annoying.
couple times, knocked me off. Like or the axes got me because I was
You get pinged around by the lightning.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I mean, and then the Iron Golem. I mean, have any thoughts about the Iron Golem? Or is he pretty?
He's so easy.
He's extremely easy.
He's so easy. I mean, they
forgot.
they literally built in a mechanic where you can just stagger him, right? And
Which is
whenever that's
yeah.
a component of a boss fight, it's like, okay, they just want you to get through this.
yeah, he's extremely easy. I do not remember him being so easy because
Yeah.
it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know if it's like like because I knew I could chop him at his legs, but half the fight he was like doing a like kneeling wavering.
I know,
thing.
yeah. And when he's not doing that, he's just swinging his axe and missing you.
Yeah.
You're standing at his legs.
That one surprised me because I actually had some trouble my first time playing through on him. But I was like, what did I even have trouble with? There was
Yeah.
nothing to, I don't know.
He has this one attack where he swings his axe really quickly and it creates one of those like, little dust clouds.
Oh, yeah.
And that one can knock you off the platform
Yeah.
if you're not careful. And it can catch you in his back arc too.
Okay.
If you're not careful.
Yeah.
That was... I just had to learn that move
Yeah.
and when to dodge it in
Yeah.
order to beat him. And so that's where I had trouble even
Yeah.
initially
I
when I
think-
was first fighting
Yeah,
him.
for me, the Zwei just did too much damage, I think, on his legs. So, like, he never, like, recovered from that. I do, like, so much of his health while he was, like, staggered.
Yeah.
So that was easy. And then, but it reveals the cutscene to Anor Londo.
So freaking weird. Okay, like, touch this blazing ring thing, which I still don't know what that is. Maybe it's revealed somewhere.
I mean,
I have no idea.
It's not. It's a gameplay.
It's just like floating in the
thing
air.
to
I was like,
summon
do
him.
I want to touch this?
Yeah.
So touch it, and then these
Yeah.
naked gargoyle things come pick you away.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this turning into?
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn on it because, like, the reveal of Anor Londo, like, once they get over there, looks cool.
Yeah, but
And that's
then
kind of
those
like this
things are carrying
weird
you.
of the demons, but, and maybe this is because I know this, so I think the original thing was that Andre was supposed to help you open up, like, if you notice at the end of the Golem thing, there's a big doorway, but it's all covered with bricks.
Yeah.
Originally, I think Andre was supposed to help you get through that doorway somehow.
Oh,
'Cause
to get into Anor Londo.
Andre was supposed to originally be Gwyn's firstborn.
Whoa.
So, which is kind of a big, like, lore thing, but they sort of retconned that out. If you notice, Andre's mouth moves. He was supposed to be a much bigger character, originally.
Huh.
But, So I think it's because I know it exists, but I kind of always like, oh, I wish I could go through that doorway instead of have this like kind of weird.
They're so weird.
Because that's the only time they're nice to you too.
And they're so. The theme of them is so off from Anor Londo's theme.
Yeah, like
like Anor Londo has this giant like stone knight looking things, and it's sunny. I mean, obviously that's an illusion, but like.
Yeah. I was wondering if you knew.
Well, just in reading up on the realm and how to like get through it and stuff, because Ornstein and Smough, I found out, but they just feel so off, like they don't belong there, and why would they take you there, and why are they at the top of Sen's Fortress? They don't even relate to anything in Sen's Fortress.
Yeah, I don't know if it's.
So random.
I don't know if it's ever truly explained. It seems like I don't know if this is explained or written in Dark Souls 3 or something later on. I can't remember. But, like, demons kind of do some stuff for the gods occasionally.
Okay.
It seems like that's why there's, like, the gargoyles are kind of, like, demon-y things.
Oh, okay.
So it's, like, it seems like, but there's not a clear relationship. And it is, like...
They felt very thrown in.
It does feel like they, like, were like, we have to get them up there, but we couldn't quite figure out... We took away this door thing.
Yeah.
So now you're gonna go... Yeah, like, I remember being so cool.
They should have just had, like, a giant standing there, and you, like, go up to him and he, like, throws you over his back. Anor Londo, that'd make more sense.
Yeah, I just, like... I remember being so cool the first time I played, but this time I was like, it's goofy, which I always appreciate something being slightly goofy.
It's totally goofy.
It's not as cool as I remember either. It's also like, oh, I'm just up here now. They had to get me up here. This is how they did it. These demons... But then I know these demons are enemies... So, like, are they bringing here in, like, a malicious way? Like, I just don't... Like, it's a weird thing to try to figure out their...
enemies you face later. Yeah. I never made that connection either.
I don't know why I'm trying to discern their motivations or, like, who's coming.
Well, because they're so random, I think. It's like, what's their purpose? Why are they there? But, I mean, not that Dark Souls often veils those things, but I think if they just didn't... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe make them gargoyles instead. It would have made more sense.
Actually, that might make sense.
I just felt like their pink flesh just like really, really threw me off. Because like Sen's Fortress, everything's like rock and like, there's, like reptiles and stuff. It's just like has a certain feel to it, and then these like fleshy things come take you away. It's like, where am I going?
Yeah. So they bring you to Anor Londo, which is the final place we're gonna cover. And, I mean, how do you feel about Anor Londo? It's saying everything's been leading up to getting to Anor Londo. The whole storyline is like...
It has. And I feel like it doesn't let down. I definitely think Anor Londo is one of my favorite zones. Yeah. It's just, like, beautiful, the way they designed it, and the way it presents itself. The vistas are gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, like, the first sunny place you come to. Yeah. The enemies are interesting. They're all kind of hulking, hard to kill creatures, but they're not very threatening, I don't think.
Yeah, I was playing through this.
Which makes you feel safe.
Yeah, like the whole place is like super pretty, and I remember struggling a lot with Anor Londo, but playing through this time I couldn't figure out. But I was like, the enemies are actually kind of lame. Like, not lame, I think that's too far.
They're safe, though.
Yeah,
they feel safe.
They actually aren't a super threat. I didn't feel too threatened. I felt like I was very confident, like I could chop them down.
Right.
And actually, in their placement was just like everything's super spread out. Like, it didn't feel tense like other areas, which I guess plays into Anor Londo being different. But it wasn't like, I like the level, but there's not actually much to it. It's not a particularly interesting level design, it just like looks really cool.
Yeah,
I think that's
it does.
Like, and there's so much built up to it, and then the boss is super good. But actually, so there's the rafters, which I got through fine.
Yeah, I did too on my first time, and I liked it. I was like, okay, this is Dark Souls at its best.
We would be yelled at if we missed the Painted World.
The Painted World,
which
oh my gosh.
So how do you feel about
my experience
with
the Painted World? So I went through the rafters, chopped down the chandelier. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Got down, made the spiral staircase thing spin down.
Yeah.
So I got down to the lower floor and cleared the floor of the painting guardians, and then accidentally pressed A in front of the painting.
Yeah.
And my character started getting sucked in, and I was like, no, where am I going? I just wanted to get through this level, because I just really wanted to get back to Firelink at this point. And I was so upset that I got sucked into this other stupid world. I appear at this godforsaken bridge with nothing behind me. And I'm like, I'm stuck here. I know I'm stuck here. I hate Dark Souls. Why am I stuck here? Go ahead. And like, I was so tentative moving through like that little foresty part before you get to the bonfire. I was like checking every side route. I was like, I'm gonna die. I know I'm gonna die. Anyways, got to the bonfire. I was like, all right, I just gotta get through this. This sucks. I was not happy.
Yeah.
And then the enemies, okay, so my overall experience of the Painted World is not a positive one. It's cool in terms of like I like the theme behind it, and I guess the fact that there's this painting that warps you to another world that's like where they've enclosed whatever her name is.
Yeah, Priscilla.
Because
other things
she had like the life hunt ability or whatever. Like I've read up on some of the lore. Like that's all really cool.
Yeah.
But in terms of, hey, you're gonna get sucked into this world from this place you're already trying to just get through, and now you have to just get through this other obstacle. I didn't like that.
It's pretty intense. The rafters immediately into the Painted World.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're like getting a rest. I mean, you do have a bonfire, but it does feel it's like high tension.
It is. Well, and what I
after Sun's Fortress.
Yeah, after Sun's Fortress. And the other thing is in the Painted World, the enemies are very well, what's the word? There's like a lot of variables.
Yeah.
And
they're tough.
They're tough because why I say there's a lot of variance is if you just like block and dodge their moves, they're easy to kill. Mm-hmm. They don't tend to have a lot of health. Even like the Phalanx doesn't have a lot of health. There's a lot of them. But if you get hit by them, they do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And so your runs through it have high variance where like sometimes you just start off bad and it's like, crap, I've already used 3 Estus.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you just breeze right through it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of annoying. I think the theme of the Painted World's really cool, like the weird crow demon things.
Yeah.
Those are really cool. They're annoying, but I liked their design.
Yeah.
The Undead Dragon, I personally hate the Undead Dragons in this game.
Yeah.
They're really stupid. They just like sit there and vomit.
Yeah,
and you just run back and forth.
I mean, mechanically, they're basically an environmental hazard.
Yeah, and like when you think of something like the Undead Dragon, like
that
should be something way cooler than this thing that sits there.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because there's a sort of a quote or something from Miyazaki talking about how he wanted the Undead Dragons to be sad, not intimidating. Like, sort of, like, he wanted the main thing to be how sad it was that the dragons have fallen and what they've become after being... So, it's sort of intentional, but as far as, like...
I feel like you could do that in a better way,
then, like, doing the gameplay, I never really touched the Undead Dragon in the area, and,
I only did it because it was a shortcut to get through it.
I mean, because I think the snowy landscape, the story behind it, and even the level design is pretty cool. Like, you're really winding your way through this whole, like, place.
Yeah, but that was cool. Like, when it opens up, when you open the gate and the bonfires there, that was nice. It's
really well built, but I agree that I don't like the enemy encounters a whole lot. And I think it is that thing where maybe it's me being impatient. Dark Souls is all about being methodical, taking your time. But, like, I'm not playing with a shield, first of all. I have the shield on my back, so I'm playing two-handed.
Right.
And, like, so maybe it's sort of my build, or, like, but, like, they do a lot of damage, and they just attack fast, and they're always in groups. And
there's a ton of them.
And, like, that should be something like, if I do get a swing in, I kill all of them. So it's sort of what you're saying.
If you're taking a bunch of damage before you do.
Yeah, if I get the swing in, I kill all of them, and it's no problem. Or I get hit and stagger. You know, like, even... like,
and now your run's ruined, and you gotta go back.
Yeah, there's so many people attacking. So I actually did find it frustrating. Like, the enemy encounters.
Yes.
And my favorite part of it is something that people actually... have trouble with, and not that I didn't have trouble with the bone wheel area down below. I actually liked that because like I felt like I could tackle it.
Why do you like
Maybe it's because I like the one-on-one. Like I felt like if I could pull them one at a time, something about that in particular encounter actually made me enjoy the whole down, which I know is a play a lot of people hate, but I was like, this is fun. I can wait for the guy, dodge, slam him.
Yeah, like it's controllable.
Like I just felt like I could conquer it. Whereas the other area, I knew how they would get pulled, but I just always felt like I was like so outnumbered. And
you don't feel like you have enough resources. I think like there are so many encounters and so many enemies, and you're going to get damaged.
Yeah,
you feel strained.
I just think being outnumbered isn't a particularly interesting design challenge. Right. Like when you finally get through everything, and you're going across the bridge. Like you see the Baraniki Knight, you see that big knight. you're getting through a few of those like little hollows. But then 4 of them come over the thing, which they've taught you in Undead Burg, like this will happen. But
it's just
I just don't like, because then I died to them because I forgot that they were there, and I was rushing. But I don't know, I just don't like the outnumbered thing. It's just, it usually frustrates me more than like, I know it's my,
adds to the
it's my fault ultimately for not being slow, like not being cautious, but I'm just impatient. Like,
yeah.
And it's just
I think I'm more impatient than you because I just killed the undead dragon, and then if you drop attack, its lower half, it'll stand up.
Yeah, and then you
can just run through it. Yeah. So I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
That was on a second playthrough. First playthrough, I went through to Priscilla. I didn't fight her, which I was really glad they made it optional because I just felt like I was wasting my time there. Like, there was nothing I wanted from Painted World.
Yeah.
Right, like no item set, no item.
Yeah, I mean, there's some
in terms of what I'm getting.
I think there's some like
it was only a delay.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's actually an invasion there, an NPC invasion. Which
I was never human. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I guess there's another thing is like you're playing offline,
right?
And I'm playing offline as well. So like that changes the experience. That is a disclaimer I probably should put at the front, but it definitely changes it because the online component definitely affects some areas. So, but yeah,
So are you saying? Because I haven't played Dark Souls,
but
with
you could play. You could play.
Are there only certain areas where you get invaded?
You can be invaded anywhere, but
right, okay.
If you're playing offline, I don't see a reason to be human because I'm not like if I summon or something, is why I'd be human. I tend to do it with people, so I guess maybe it's just me rolling into it. Like I agree with you. I don't know why I would be human in the Painted World because there's no reason for me to be human. But if there is, there's a pretty cool NPC fight. But it's one of those things like it's just one of those things playing through the game. You're like, oh, I need to be human at this point. Right. But you'd have to know, like, because nobody I don't know. Yeah,
or
I don't.
Like at the bottom of Blighttown.
Yeah. Unless you hate how you look, like as an undead, which you can't really see. I don't know why I would be human. So. But yeah, like I can see why it's just like Priscilla's like.
Well, apparently doesn't humanity and I don't know if it's being human, but at least humanities increase your item discovery.
Yeah, it helps item discovery a little bit. So
which I think is dumb.
It's a
like
sort of
just knowing
obscure
that
mechanic.
Because I died, I'm gonna see less of things that will help me.
Yeah,
I don't like that. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a weird, like, oh, here's this little other bone. Maybe they had to incentivize being human a little more than, like for someone in our position where it's like, I don't know, I'm not going to summon anyone.
Right. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's not like I'm losing health like in Dark Souls 2, which gives you a very clear reason to be human. You're like, okay.
I wonder if they added that for that reason.
Actually, does that make you human? Or I can't remember.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 3, I think, gives you additional health. So there's like a reason to be human. There's certain motivations that they explore. Demon Souls gives you more health too. So Painted World. Yeah, Priscilla. She was like, I knew the gimmick of like, hey, you haven't fought her, have you?
No, I haven't.
I mean, she has a small gimmick.
She was invisible or something.
Yeah, nothing super special. I mean, it's kind of cool. I mean, but then you hit her. I could see her footprints. I hit her, then she's not invisible.
Oh, okay.
And Zweihander, I chop her down in like 5 hits. Like more than that, but like. There's nothing to her once she becomes visible for me again. Because I just cut her down. As one boss I could just stand behind and just whack away at her.
So far, we haven't really mentioned many interesting boss fights. Which I mentioned to you when you asked me how I was enjoying my playthrough.
Yeah.
That I felt as though the bosses in Dark Souls 1 were not as interesting as the bosses in Dark Souls 2.
It's interesting because there's so many more.
Still stick to that.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of them are stand out. Like,
yeah, at least halfway through.
Mechanically, at least.
Mechanically, yeah.
Yeah, like visually, I think
they're cool.
Yeah, and
for sure.
I think we're about coming up on the exception.
Yeah,
it's like so. Before we get to that part, so you get back out in Anor Londo. You've been through the Painted World ordeal. Yeah. So then there's another infamous section, the Archers of Anor Londo, which how was that for you?
It was fine. I just ran right through it. I died once. So I died once because... So I ran across the bridge, and honestly, for me, the what do you call it? Like the fencing on either side of the bridge, they were blocking the arrows for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people have not experienced that.
I mean, that does happen to a degree, yeah.
I could tell that they could potentially go through them, though.
Yeah.
So I knew I was getting lucky. Anyway, so I ran up, and I ran to the right, and I killed that one. I almost fell off the edge doing it, but I killed him. And then the reason I died is I went to the left to kill the other one.
Yeah.
And I think there's an item over there, maybe.
Not a huge reason to go over there.
But the next time I was like, screw that, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I just went through, killed the guy on the right, and went on with my business.
Yeah, I've
So
been...
how do people struggle with it?
Yeah, so I think the struggle, and I guess I'll explain. So I've played through this. This was my third time playing through this section.
Yeah.
I've always done it in one try without dying. I didn't even know until, like... I didn't even know it was a thing the first time that people struggled with.
Right.
Because, and maybe it's my personality too, but I'm very, the game teaches you to run at a certain point. Like, you can run through enemies. And so, I think maybe on my first playthrough, I died to some gargoyles down there. Because there's a bunch of gargoyles.
Yeah, there's 2 hiding.
Yeah. So I just ran the next time. And then, I saw the archers, but I went up toward the archer on the right. And then I back away, and he always walks off the ledge and dies.
Oh.
So I've done that every repeat time. I just run past all the gargoyles, go up there, and then target the guy, or I try not to target the guy, actually.
Yeah.
And then just back away when he comes toward me, and he falls off the ledge and dies. But people struggle from so it's hard for me. Like, I've watched people struggle. It's like, they try to take out all the enemies, it seems, and maybe they're trying to go for the item, but they get hit by the arrows, and then they do have trouble fighting on that tiny ledge.
Yeah.
Once they pull out their weapon, because for some reason they don't seem to fall off for them. But they do get hit by arrows as they're going up that second rafter, as they're going up toward.
Oh, yeah.
And I never had that happen.
Me neither.
So that's a big part of the game that neither one of us.
Maybe if you just start off running, they target you in such a way that it's
I'm so okay running through that section at this point that I just I'm like, because people do poison arrows, they'll go through all these things to poison the archers so that they'll die and they can hide away, but I just never found them to be a problem.
Yeah, me neither.
So
sorry for anyone listening.
And then the second part is just Silver Knight City. You just fight a bunch of Silver Knights, and then you find, Silver Knights are pretty easy once I've parried
Yeah, I had to learn the moveset. I really struggled to learn the moveset, though.
Yeah, I just backstabbed him most of the time.
Yeah, so I wanted to parry. I have this idealized vision in my head where parrying is the ultimate thing to do. If you can parry, you're cool.
It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah,
and you can face most enemies doing that. So I was I want to parry the Silver Knights. Obviously that's the easiest thing to do here, and I just really struggled with because their attacks are fast.
Yeah.
Obviously, once you learn them, it's easier, and that just took time. But they're not hard once you learn either how to circle them, to backstab them, or how to repost them. Yeah,
that was the part where there's these cool rooms. There's a Titanite demon in a very tiny room.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't fight him because I was I don't want to.
I just pyromancied him down.
Yeah, I should probably do that. But I just went through and it's this was the part of the level where I was oh, it's not actually it's the set of it's cool.
Yeah,
I love exploring Anor Londo. It's really pretty. It looks really nice. The level design's pretty straightforward, but also kind of cool. Working my way through that building. But the enemies, I don't know.
Yeah, the enemies are marginal.
They just seem kind of placed. There's nothing.
They do.
They don't feel like. I mean, they're an illusion. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the ultimate answer or the explanation is that they are an illusion. But I still was just that's fine.
Yeah, they're just Silver Knights. I will say about that, the level design of that section felt routine, in terms of how it all just comes back to itself, right? You make connections back to the bonfire.
Yeah,
you make a lot of connections back to original bonfires in Anor Londo, and it made me feel like the time I'd spent exploring wasn't returned to me. There wasn't a return on that. Because it's you're back to where you started.
Yeah.
Was kind of the feel of it. And so it felt very rote and mundane walking through those steps just to open it up so that I can move forward.
Yeah, because it's slightly confusing. But there's a lot of paths that just kind of return.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't feel like you're really progressing much more through the level because they keep circling back. Which
might appeal to some people, but I like knowing that I'm moving forward.
Yeah, I think the moments of shortcuts that feel rewarding is especially when there's a moment of tension, and without the tension of the enemies, I'm oh well, I'm just back here again.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
So I think you need that tension to feel oh no, I don't have to do that part. Yeah. I've earned this new route, and I couldn't even really.
That's the big release of the Undead Parish and stuff like that.
And it's slightly confusing because I couldn't even tell you ultimately what I unlocked that made it.
No,
quicker.
yeah, you don't. You just open a door.
It's
it's
a little confusing with the 2 staircases. I get sort of lost at where I'm actually going,
Yeah.
which is maybe what you're feeling too. Because it didn't feel challenging, but I didn't really know what I was doing, and then I end up here and be like, I don't know how I got here. And it's not the connection like, oh, now I'm here. It's like,
it's
oh,
not
how
like
did
you're
I
being
get here?
rewarded. Yeah, it's like you're stumbling across it.
I can see that. It's nothing like amazing. Did you find the little secret room with Havel or like Havel stuff?
No, I didn't.
Oh, and have you fought?
I didn't fight Havel though.
Mimics.
Yes,
you know them
I
from
killed
Dark
the
Souls
mimics.
too. Yeah.
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 And I had to look at the chain to.
Yeah, I look at the chain.
identify
Yeah,
them.
that's how I do it too. But yeah, there's an interesting room with Havel in there. It's behind a fireplace, if you can find it. It's nothing huge, but it does give some backstory on Havel. Potentially, that's kind of interesting, and maybe is leading like it's an argument that maybe the guy in the tower is not actually Havel, just one of his knights.
Interesting.
But like, so there's just, and maybe Havel's motivations get sort of confused when you see it, like, because it's like a hidden room. It's sort of maybe it's like, oh, maybe Havel had something else going on.
Yeah, like why was he here? What
so
was he doing?
it's sort of interesting because he's one of Gwyn's commanders back in the day. But it seems like he has a really positive relationship. He hates dragons, but then the secret room sort of is like, oh, how did he feel about some of these things? So it's interesting. It's worth exploring, and that is probably the biggest payoff is finding that secret room. So, but it's like an illusory wall, like behind a fireplace. I think.
Oh, okay.
So
I will say, illusory walls in Dark Souls 1 versus Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 1 hides them way better. I found very few.
Yeah.
And I think I've only found ones that have been told me. Dark Souls 2, it's almost like there's something about that wall, and you're like, I should probably hit that.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, how they like lead you to do so.
I think there's like sometimes there's a band of light at the bottom. Like I don't know. Sometimes like it seems like there's like it is set slightly weird. The texture is slightly different. Yeah. So it's hard for me to tell because I just know where they are. Yeah. Like it's like a thing I felt
like it was more intuitive to pick them up though.
Yeah.
And I haven't found that.
I don't know how I know any of them in Dark Souls 1. Yeah, I don't remember. I just know them now, so it's like I don't know how I'd see this otherwise, but yeah. So. Getting through that second section, but then obviously ending with Ornstein and
Smough.
What originally made me quit playing Dark Souls in the first try. I mean,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, Ornstein and Smough. I mean, they're infamous. They're like, how do you feel about that fight?
So this is a fight I enjoyed because it's challenging.
It was.
But there's also obviously a love-hate relationship with that challenge. It did at times feel impossible. Like, how the heck am I supposed to do this?
Yeah.
I spent 2 days, not playing time, but like over the course of 2 days.
You kind of got to give it a break.
Yeah, so it was kind of late at night. I knew the boss fight was coming up, and so I wanted to try it. Yeah. And I tried a whole host of different attack routes. I tried summoning Solaire to help me, but then I found you had to clear the room of those enemies, and the stupid giant knights just take forever to kill, and they like damage him in the process too. And I was like, okay, it's helpful to have him there to take one of Smough or Ornstein off of you, and then it makes it so much easier. But you can still die just as easily. So like a chain of unfortunate attacks, right? Like Smough's. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm getting right. Ornstein is the fat one.
Ornstein is the little guy with the spear.
Okay, Ornstein's the little guy.
The executioner.
Smough's the fat guy. Okay, so Smough, his stupid shovel running, charging shovel attack. I hate that attack so much. The delayed upward thrust. If you why I hate it is because if you aren't using the pillars correctly like you should in that fight, he'll catch you with it. 9 times out of 10 because you'll dodge when he finally gets to you and is charging. But then his delayed upward thrust will catch you in your dodge. And I found it's really hard to time that dodge. So that was just really frustrating. A particular move set that was really frustrating. But other than that, typically you enter the room and Ornstein does his...
He was a little skating around.
Yeah, and which I found I was able to dodge that consistently.
It's not too bad when you can see him doing it.
Yes, it's when you lose sight of him.
Or when he pops out behind Smough surprise!
Yeah, so what I found, my tactic was keep a pillar between you and them at all times, and if you can, keep Smough between you and Ornstein. And I took the route of killing Smough, and then facing Ornstein.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know why, I'm a melee, I like playing melee.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I like dexterity or strength builds. And so I like being close to the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really be close to Smough when he's super Smough. But with Ornstein, if you stand at his back heels, there's really only one attack that can hit you.
And you can roll that.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So I found that to be easier. And so really, when I ended up beating him, it was just like typical Dark Souls fashion. You just perfectly execute your plan.
It feels amazing. It was the first time in Dark Souls 1 returning, which, I have to take into context, but man, it's just, I wanted that tension so bad, and I was so glad to see that they still had the tension. Since the gargoyles, and maybe it's something to talk, maybe it's a point towards Dark Souls and how multiple enemies are kind of the hardest thing about I think that really complicates things with how the game works, how you target one guy, you strafe around them. That's a real... I play Ornstein and Smough completely unlocked. I never lock on to any of the enemies.
Yeah, same.
Because you can't, because the other one will whack you, because you can't. Because
you're restricted in your movement.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, with the
music... Or because your movement's pivoting around a source, and there's another source in the room of danger.
Yeah.
And so...
You can't react to it.
You're moving irrespective of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I love it with the bombastic music.
Yeah, it's great.
It's just like, them coming at you, and my strategy was... Which I've heard of both versions, so we sort of independently, because afterward I was sort of like, oh, how else have people done this? Because I heard you do it differently. I was like, oh, actually that's the thing people do. They'll keep Smough, they'll hone in on Smough, but I honed in on Ornstein.
Yeah.
And my way to do it was, I would go in the room, kind of take the initial assault, that would lead me to figure out where to go, and then I just run away from them as far as possible
to draw out
to draw out Ornstein, because he's going to move faster, which is why Smough's hammer was never a problem, because he'd do it too far away from me, and so he'd always end his run because he gets tired. It's
right.
It's
he's just off in the distance,
whereas
digging into the ground.
Because I tried fighting Smough sometimes too, but I'd always find Ornstein would come in and stab me.
Yeah,
and I just got so tired, and I think that's partially too because I was still shieldless with this Y-hander, so I can't react super fast. So
I was two-handing the Uchi.
Yeah, it was way easier for me to have Ornstein, have them start to break apart from each other, and then watch Ornstein telegraph his skate to me, and then I could just dodge his skate, because it's pretty easy once you see him coming. Yeah. And then I hit him, and he staggers for me for a minute, so then I get another hit, and then I get out of there before Ornstein comes in, and I just played it safe. Because that's what you have to do with them, is... I was you have to play that fight safe. I hit.
You have to bait one of them. Yeah.
I hit them twice, and then sometimes because I fought them quite a few times. I didn't do it in one try. I didn't even do it in 5 tries. I think it took me a little time.
I used 8 humanity.
Yeah, because I tried getting a third hit. Sometimes you get a little greedy. Yeah. And guaranteed Smough would
catch you,
smack me with the shovel, with his hammer generally. And so when I decided my strategy was to take out Ornstein. Then for Smough, it was just a bait. I would just back away. I'm still playing unlocked. And then I would just wait for him to just do a normal hammer. I'd roll through it. And then I'd smack him in the butt a couple times. Yeah. And then I would back away in case he did a super jump. Because I died to him, I think it was once or twice, because I tried... I started doing weak attacks versus a strong slice. Because if I did the strong slice twice... I could get hit by his butt slam. Okay. And if you get anywhere near either of their butt slams... Yeah, you're dead. With that, lightning...
So although you can keep a pillar between you and it.
Okay. Yeah, so I that's basically what I did.
But you don't want to initiate that.
Yeah, regardless. So once I got through... once you get one of them down, it feels pretty easy. I got to Super Ornstein once, and... He's just, for some reason, the way I play, he'd always catch me with his spear. I'd roll. I just, for some reason... I can't dodge.
He has that kind of delayed
attack. He's pulls back.
The delayed attack, and then it's a really fast attack. Yeah. Those are hard in the game.
And I couldn't seem to get behind him, and I think the slowness of this Y just meant I could catch him, but I kept trying to do strong attacks because I'm a glutton for seeing big numbers.
Yeah, being slow would not help. I could see why that
I just couldn't help the big numbers thing. I just I think that's a weakness of mine. I love doing the 2-hand strong attack when I can.
Yeah. But, well, it's interesting though because I think although we targeted different, we had different targets to start. The method's the same, because in the same way that you're drawing out Ornstein from Smough, I was doing the same thing. Ornstein basically always attacks first. Mm-hmm. And so I'd draw out his attack, and that would open it up so that I could attack Smough.
And then you'd run into Smough.
Yeah, and then I would know about the time when I could be expecting Ornstein's spear to poke through Smough's body and hit me, and so I just dodge backwards. Yeah. And then they would open up for more attacks. So it's kind of the same thing, just baiting one of them to begin a series of attacks so that you can assault the other one.
It's hilarious watching Ornstein when his thing won't target correctly, or because it would sometimes be diagonal from him on the opposite side of the room. Just watching him hit bouncing off all the pillars, trying.
It's like playing Pikachu in Smash Bros. And doing your up B and teleporting all around.
Exactly,
it's just doing these weird angles.
Yeah, well, they are Snorlax and Pikachu.
Yeah, exactly. It's very fitting.
So then after that you get the Lord Vessel. Now you can warp.
Yes.
And I told you at this point I was like, you patched the game now.
Yeah.
So you can get all the warp points.
Yeah. So that was definitely needful. Yeah, I was pretty disappointed when I went to the bonfire and I was like, oh, I can only go to these 4 places.
Yeah.
However many.
So I mean, that's the first half of the game. I'm working my way. I got through the 4 kings.
Nice. I'm getting there.
So good luck with some of that stuff. But
kind of want to go talk to Frampt now.
Yeah. I think we're running out of time to address all these questions, but one question got from Patty Stardust on Twitter, as he wanted to know how you felt about Ornstein, or the old Dragon Slayer, now that he was in Dark Souls 2, but then he's also he wanted to know how you felt about the old Dragon Slayer now that you've seen the original version, because he's not a super he might be kind of a weird boss if you start with Dark Souls 2, old Dragon Slayer guy. How did it feel to have him contextualized as this is what someone's thinking of when they saw him in Dark Souls 2?
Oh, so how have I reimagined?
Yeah, did it
Dragon Slayer?
Change the context, and also how does that work? It's a question of what do you which one's real?
Oh yeah, well I definitely. So I actually didn't make that connection initially. Yeah. But I can see it now. Yeah. And that's really interesting.
Yeah, because they can't both exist.
No. Theoretically. No. I mean, to me, I would say Ornstein certainly seems like... Well, but then there's the question of, is it an illusion?
Yeah, I fall on the side of, I think...
But he seems to have more character.
I think that, it's a weird thing, because, I think the one, but I like the other more. Where, I think that the Ornstein is an illusion in this one, and he left Anor Londo with a bunch of the gods. They all decided to leave after Gwyn started doing his stuff.
Right.
And Smough is real, I think, in there. For some reason, I think he just stayed around. He's the last guy left. Yeah. And then the old Dragon Slayer... Then the old Dragon Slayer is old, corrupted Ornstein.
Yeah.
But there's arguments both ways of no, he's actually just a guy pretending to be Ornstein. He's just taking his armor and he's just... Yeah. He's he's someone different because he doesn't use the same... He has dark or something.
Yeah.
He's
I
different.
don't think he uses lightning, right?
Yeah, so it's a different... It's a different fight.
That's a really interesting question.
So, yeah, that was one question from Twitter on that, so... But... Yeah, so that's where I fall on, but yeah, that's probably what I like.
I would probably agree that just because Anor Londo is an illusion, it would lead me to believe that Ornstein's...
Yeah.
Maybe it presents who Ornstein was, right, and who he should be, in the most idealized form of his character, that's what he was like, and then this older one, I mean, he's fallen from glory, and he's corrupted now, and so, sure, it's not presenting him in his fully imagined in the sense of it, but yeah.
And then Dark Souls 3 will further confuse the Ornstein storyline. But so that's the first half. So overall, feeling positive, negative about Dark Souls 1. I mean,
definitely feeling positive about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I love the Dark Souls series. They're just challenging. I love challenges.
You played through all the DLC for 2, so you've gone through Fume Knight. You've been through some of the...
Yeah, I beat Fume Knight.
Fume
Knight was great.
So you really definitely have your chops
days on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely enjoy Dark Souls. I do I do like the difference in level design. Like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think because I started with Dark Souls 2, that's just what I'm used to, and that's why I prefer it.
Yeah.
But I don't dislike, per se, the difference.
Yeah, if the world design is necessarily driving how you feel about one game versus the other...
Then you might dislike one over the other. But I think I appreciate them both for what they are.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying the difference.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it hits you. I didn't get into too much story stuff because I feel like the story of Dark Souls is made complete by the whole thing. So this has been part 1 of, I guess I'm calling this Try Jumping.
Try Jumping.
Try Jumping, yeah. And so, thank you for listening. I've been, Sean.
Yeah, this is Ryan.
And, if you're interested in what other stuff I do otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter at The Lore Hunter. Do you have anything you want to plug? If people are interested in your opinions elsewhere.
No, I don't really have any.
You exist in the real world as a person.
I do. Follow Sean though. Lore Hunter.
Check out that stuff. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hey yo, I'm pretty sure Dark Souls fans are lunatics. They seem so trustworthy since I was new to this. I thought maybe it was a great game I missed. Mate, you're gonna have a great time, they promise. It's the first time I believe a bold-faced lie. Sobbing to my pillow, hot tears, and I scream why. But honestly, how dense am I when the special edition's called Prepare to Die?
I pawned you off a copy, one of my library of copies of Dark Souls 1.
What do you have, like 6?
Something like that now. I think it's it's at least 4 at this point. And I don't know if you heard. This is gonna date this recording, but they just recently announced.
So we have an hour until that happens again.
Yeah. So I'll just edit this part out.
Yeah, no.
Jump back in. I forgot about you. I'm like controlling all noise. I'm like, turn off this, turn off that.
This is Charlie Brown too. It's hilarious. Snoopy's just sticking his head out.
Okay.
I feel like the warping versus not warping is only quality of life. I would think that the reasons that people would enjoy that they would enjoy the level design being interconnected is just for the sake of experiencing things opening up.
It's cool. It feels immersive. There's never a load screen to pull you out of the game.
Yeah. And
you can walk so far in Dark Souls 1 without ever seeing a load screen.
Right.
Like, you can go through so much of the game without even a cutscene.
Right.
like nothing to interrupt.
Yeah. So, and that's in a different sense a quality of life deal as well.
It's true, yeah. Like,
none of it, like, affects, I would say, necessarily the level design itself. Like whether or not they put a corridor that connects to levels, or they just have a bonfire.
Yeah, because thinking back on it, I don't like Dark Souls has shortcuts, but I don't know if it's probably I think I like part of the reason Bloodborne sticks out to me a bit more, maybe even Demon Souls, is like they're designing shortcuts to go back to just a few lanterns and archstones.
Yeah.
So like I actually kind of find, and Bloodborne sort of straddles it where it is kind of an open world, but also like its thing. I just sometimes feel like it's a little bit more clever. I get a little bit more, like, the elevator going down the Undead Parish, you're like, this is amazing. Like, when you see that and you're like, oh, it's all connected together. And I also, when the depths, I forgot that it comes out in Firelink Shrine. I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yes.
But there's not many, like, I also get the same thing in Bloodborne when I see a shortcut. And now I realize how I can skirt through just this little portion. Right. It's a similar, like, oh man, this is really clever. Yeah. But I think people are mostly impressed with how they could do that on such a big scale. Mm-hmm. But actually it falls away. There's like our spokes still.
Yeah. No,
like,
there are.
Long periods that don't interconnect.
Right. And
they're pretty linear levels. Like I don't think Blighttown's especially, I think there's pretty much like, it's confusing, but I don't think there's like little tributaries.
You're going down.
Yeah.
You're just going down.
But yeah, it's not like there's like different ways to go through the level.
Not, like, unless you just like are rolling off.
There's just exploration, main path. You kind of, it's sort of elegant. It kind of keeps you moving forward. You don't usually have to backtrack to get onto the main path,
Right.
but they all sort of funnel into one main path.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so I don't think...
yeah. But it's one of those things that I think it's just like when people were expecting a sequel, they were like, oh, this is going to be a thing again. I can't wait to be like stranded out in the middle of nowhere. And when they were like, no, you don't have
it
to.
open up.
People had opinions, but a lot of people really love Dark Souls 2 as their favorite too.
Yeah, I just think that the warping is almost the same as...
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different presentation of it. Because in Dark Souls 2, it's more like you see the next bonfire ahead. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's my safe haven, essentially.
Yeah.
And in Dark Souls 1, it's more like, I don't know, you see a door and it opens up and it's like, okay, that's my safe haven.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it comes up a lot in Dark Souls 3. The discussion I remember is like, it is that thing for some people, they react negatively to the checkpoint idea.
Yeah.
They want to feel like they have to just do this world, and they really feel like a sense of place because they keep kind of treading through similar paths, but there's sort of
which is true.
subjective.
It creates that for sure.
Yeah, like they like
If that's what
people say, like they could
like,
draw a
you
map
totally
of
see
Dark
that.
Souls, whereas they can't draw a map of the other games,
Right.
Because they just don't have the same connection to the places.
Yeah.
I could not draw a map.
Yeah, that's definitely lost in 2 and 3.
Yeah, yeah. You have so many more games you can play in the series. But anyways, okay, we'll hop back into it with the Undead Asylum. Okay.